Well, hello, folks out there in YouTube land. Got a big show lined up for you. Let's get right on into it. All right, folks, they're sorry. Oh, man. Two guys who kind of acted like horses' butts yesterday, they have both apologized. And we covered that extensively. And that is one Greg Mcelroy and Mr. Schlossnagle. So let's get into this story. Now, Greg Mcelroy, as you know, pretty much ripped Tony Vitello yesterday, called him classless, told him he should be a WWE fighter because he acts like one, and so on and so forth. It was just pretty much what he described himself as a diatribe of ripping on Tony. But he heard it big time from Tennessee VOLS fans and from all over the country. Look, even other commentators and people in the media business were like, you are off base on this, dude. You're way off base, okay? Nobody saw that the way that he did. If you saw Tony celebrating, I'll show you what it looked like. And this is the part that got him the most upset. Right after they won the national title, he jumped in here with the crowd of all the Tennessee faithful and partied with them for about 5-10 seconds. He thought that was an antic that was very unprofessional, etc. He just really didn't like it and was not happy. So this is what probably upset him the most. And there was other things too. The part where he celebrated, they threw ice on him, the big ice bucket, and then he threw ice up in the air. He didn't care for that either. He said that was too much celebration. So anyway, Greg ripped him pretty hard. But after 24 hours of total backlash, and I mean, he's really been hearing it. And a lot of people have been pretty much letting him know, hey, you know, it's just nothing but jealousy. And like I said, that was another part that upset him, throwing the ice with his buddies. And here's a guy, Peter Burns from ESPN. He says, I can't help that Greg Mcelroy hates fun. He said, I absolutely loved how Tony handled his post-game celebration. It was real, it was genuine, and also why the next generation of kids want to play for him. Peter Burns of ESPN. Another guy said, I usually let things like this go, but I can't on Greg Mcelroy. 7 years with Tony Vitello. Does he wear his emotions on his sleeve? He does, but nobody works harder and wants to compete at the highest level like he does. First title in program history, and you. That was Chad Zurcher. Here's a guy that says, terrible take by Greg Mcelroy. Not really sure if he's ever watched a College World Series game, but anyone who understands how hard of a feat it is to win it all shouldn't care how it's celebrated. It takes more than beating up teams like Chattanooga for 1/4 of your season. Okay, yeah, he was getting on him. Here's an outkick. You know they didn't appreciate it. It says Greg Mcelroy took issue with their head coach. They, needless, didn't appreciate it. Here's another guy that says, oh, there's what Greg Mcelroy looks like. And now I'll play the apology for you. You can actually hear it.
I want to start by just apologizing to Tony Vitello and the Tennessee Volunteers. What took a shot at him yesterday, and it wasn't necessary. My frustrations about where we're at society boiled over. It was unnecessary. Yesterday should have been a day of celebration of what Tennessee accomplished on the baseball field, as opposed to a streaming consciousness basically diatribe about all the things that are bothering me right now in my personal life and all the things that are bothering me right now with where we're at in society. So apologize to Tony Vitello, apologize to Tennessee fans, to Tennessee baseball program, and know that I'm as happy for you for bringing it home last night or 2 nights ago as anybody that wears crimson and white in their college experience. So happy for that, and it wasn't the right place or time, so I want to make sure everybody understands that I'm very, very sorry. And I will celebrate with you moving forward as opposed to being frustrated by little nitpicking moments that might have rubbed me the wrong way. So I really, really apologize. It wasn't right, and it won't happen again.
Apologize.
All right, I apologize.
You're really sorry.
I'm really, really sorry. I apologize unreservedly.
You take it back.
I do. I offer a complete and utter retraction. The imputation was totally without basis in fact and was in no way fair comment.
All right, so that was kind of a weird apology. It was an apology. I'll give him credit for that. He came out and he said he was sorry. It was a weird apology. I wonder why he didn't just say, look, I'm old school. That's just who I am. And I didn't see that the right way. I made a mistake, apologize, etc. But he went into this kind of thing, personal problems, etc. But here's the thing that's weird to me. Very weird to me that he went ahead and he pointed out Tony Vitello the way he's a player's coach. The players love him. He loves the players. You never see him dress down a player or rip them or yell at them or scream at them. You never see him do that. He always treats his players really good. And if he has to get on them, he does it in a respectful way. Now, there is a coach at Alabama, or was, who is the GOAT. Look, you hardly ever see me criticize Nick Saban very much. I'm pretty limited on that because the guy wins. He's won everything. And he coached the way he coached. You know, you knew when you went to Alabama you were going to get coached hard. If you made a mistake, he was going to yell and scream at you. He didn't care if there was 10 million people watching. He didn't care if you were a coach. Lane Kiffin, he screamed and yelled at him and dressed him down. That's who the guy was, okay? It was effective and it worked. But a lot of people could have said, hey, that's not how you treat human beings. I never said it because, look, you knew what you were getting into. You went to Alabama. That's how the coaching was going to be. You'd probably win a national championship, but, you know, don't make a mistake. You would think if Greg McElroy is that upset about Tony Vitello celebrating a championship, he would be way more upset over Nick Saban yelling and screaming in the faces of players that make mistakes, especially in front of millions of people. But he never said a word about that and still never did, even after he was retired and doing this, you know, media thing. And I'll show you an example. And a lot of people are bringing this up, a lot of people. I mean, watch this right here. That's yelling and screaming at this guy. Now he's yelling and screaming at a coach. Look at this coach up here. He's like, golly, man. And Nick is just going nuts on him. Okay, here's this. Now, is there profanity in this? I don't know. But that's the way the guy coaches. He coached hard, and he didn't care to yell and scream at you. It's just the way that it was. But here's the weird thing. Why is that okay? If you're that sensitive, Greg, and you don't like to see a coach act a certain way, you would think you'd be super upset over him yelling and screaming at players. So anyway, that's just the hypocrisy of that bothers me. But I do accept his apology. He did come out immediately after the next day and say, hey, I screwed up. So I'll give him credit for that. And that's not me ripping on Nick Saban. So anybody in the comment section, Alabama fans, don't be freaking out. I'm just pointing out some obvious hypocrisy by Greg McElroy. That, hey, you're going to call one coach out, but you won't call out the guy right under your nose? That's a bias. See, you need to understand you've got a serious bias. And that's okay, but just accept it and then understand it before you start ripping on another coach. Okay. You know, food for thought. All right, now we need to talk about Jim Schlossnagle. Not an easy name to say. If you saw the video yesterday, and of course it was everywhere, he ripped this reporter that asked him a very simple question that anybody would ask in those circumstances. Hey, there are rumors out that you may be going to Texas. And here's Schlossnagle, who's sitting in front of a microphone, taking questions. What's he supposed to do? Not ask the question? So anyway, Schlossnagle ripped him.
The rumors circulating today about a specific job opening. What do you have to say about your future in Aggieland?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty selfish of you to ask me that question, to be honest with you. But I left my family to be the coach at Texas A&M. I took the job at Texas A&M to never take another job again.
You sure about that?
And that hasn't changed in my mind. And that's unfair to talk about something like that. That'd be like you asking Montgomery if he's going to sign in the draft. But I understand you got to ask the question. But I gave up a big part of my life to come take this job, and I've poured every ounce of my soul in this job, and I've given this job every single ounce I can possibly give it. Let's write that.
Coach, thank you very much.
Where are we at in society today? Come after me! I'm a man! I'm 40! I'm not a kid! Write something about me.
That's right. I'm a man. I'm 40. Write that. But anyway, that was a overreaction on his part. Obviously, they'd lost the game, so of course he's upset anyway. But he didn't handle that well. Anyway, he did apologize today. I'll let you listen to that and see it.
When the game ended, I want to publicly apologize to Richard Zane from TexAgs. He's a young reporter. He asked the question. That was an obvious question. I wish I could have answered that better. But in the moment, 30 minutes after the last pitch, all I could think about was our players. And I really wasn't in the mood to talk about myself or the future. So I apologize for that to Richard.
Yeah, so there's that. And here's the thing that I can't understand. If I was going to take that job, which they've been working on this for over a month, obviously. You don't just suddenly, you and a bunch of assistants go to Texas and you did it in like within 24 hours. That's laughable. So he's known this has been coming for a long time. Why in the world didn't he tell Texas, say, I'm going to take the job, but do not fire your coach until after the College World Series is over, for gosh sakes? Because otherwise, I'm going to get asked about this and I'm going to have to lie. Or I'm going to have to do some little dance, the Texas two-step or whatever.
Ooh, I love to dance a little side step. Now they see me, now they don't. Have come and gone.
And coaches don't like to do that. So I would have made sure that was the case. Instead, they fired him like the day before the game, which is just the worst timing imaginable. And then, of course, he gets stuck in this situation. So now Texas may not care. They're like, hey, this will make Texas A&M even angrier. But that screws over Schlossnagle. So they shouldn't have done it that way. They really, the timing of that was pathetically bad by Texas. I mean, jeez, that athletic director needs his head examined for firing maybe there was some financial reason he had to fire him that day. If so, that somebody should bring that out because that timing was a disaster. And if I was Schlossnagle, I would have walked up. I might not have taken the job. I just said, look, if you're going to try to humiliate me like this, I may just stay at A&M, and I'll bet they'd have paid him. They'd probably matched the salary of Texas. So if he's so buddy-buddy with that athletic director at Texas, you would have thought he would have had enough sense, professional sense, not to put him in that situation. That's food for thought, too. Anyway, this is him apologizing, kind of, to the Texas A&M players or people.
The question will come up, why this move and why now? I don't take that lightly. On some hands, this was a very easy decision because of my relationship with Chris and my past history and my belief in him and his wife, Robin. But it was obviously very hard. Especially, there's a lot of decisions in life that you don't get to choose the timing. You don't get to meet with your team as you would like. And for that, I am sorry. But college athletics right now is this is the problem. Mr. Del Conte would probably agree, this is the most uncertain time of college athletics.
I'm going to tell you something. He doesn't seem like the type of guy you'd want to play for. I swear he doesn't. I don't know him personally at all. I've not followed him. He just seems, I don't know, there's just something about him. He's not very likable. I played at UT. I was an athlete there and played on the golf team, of all things. So I've got a little bit of a feel for, team dynamics and things like that. That guy looks like he doesn't give a crap. That's just my opinion. I could be totally wrong. Maybe he does. But here's a guy that used to play for him that this might clear a few things up.
A&M is a special place to you. You were at TCU under Schloss. You transferred to A&M. How was your time at TCU under Schloss and your relationship and then the move eventually to A&M? Because I want to get to where we are now after that.
Yeah, I've been asked this question for years, and I've been asked it a ton. And to be honest, I've often held back a little bit on, the story and what it was like there. But I'll just, I'll be as blunt as I can right here. I had tremendous success at TCU, and so I didn't really run into many issues with playing time already on the field. I guess headbutts with Coach Schloss. And so I can't really talk negatively from that standpoint because I was just one of the better players. So things typically go well for you when that's the case. But I will say this, Jim Schlossnagle was never, ever going to be a reason that I stayed at TCU. He was never going to keep me from leaving because there was just no relationship there. There was no father figure. There was no real establishment of trust that there is, a bond between a player and a coach. And I think that has continued, but I know that that's continued among former players and former coaches. And I think that was something that just didn't make the decision hard. When I love Texas A&M and I love what this university, this town and everything, stood for, when I had to look at Coach Schlossnagle and say, hey, I'm leaving for another university, I really didn't feel much tug at my heart during that. And that wouldn't have been the case with someone like Rob Childress. But there was just more of and I'll use this term a lot, it was just a transactional relationship, player-coach. And so it just didn't really run any deeper than that. And I don't think it's, changed a whole lot. But that was kind of my time at TCU.
Yeah, transactional. That's probably the proper verbiage that I would use. He just strikes me as it's just a businessman, really. Which actually, with the old NIL and all that, and the money and all that makes him a pretty good manager for that. But I can tell you this much: I'd much rather play for Tony Vitello anytime. It wouldn't even be a consideration. That guy right there looks like he's about as much fun as something that's not fun. I got nothing. He just doesn't strike me as somebody that would be inspiring. Whereas Vitello, you'd run through a wall for that guy. He just he gets the guys excited. They love him. I mean, it's just totally different. I can also tell you the whole Greg Mcelroy thing. Players in high school, if they watched, which I know they did, they watched the College World Series, they're going to beat a path to Knoxville to play for Tony. Tony's going to be able to pick and choose who he wants. He's actually been doing that anyway the last 5 years. But he's going to be able to get whoever he wants. He is. People are going to want to be a part of that fun and the new stadium. And, of course, we sell out every game. It's a happening place. And Vitello's sort of he's the Pied Piper. There's no doubt. So, anyway, I thought I would play that for you. His apology, his explanation. And then, like I said, you can see kind of a transactional type dude for Schlossnagle. And I am glad that he apologized to that reporter because that was a very reasonable question of the circumstances. And, he ripped him. He let his emotions get the better of him. But you do have two guys that are very sorry today. Because I can tell you Schlossnagle got ripped to shreds yesterday. And I mean by everybody. I don't care what team it was. Everybody in college baseball wore him out. And the players, his players at Texas A&M, they're not very happy with him at all. I can promise you. So anyway, did want to bring you those stories today. Like I said, it's sort of a follow-up to yesterday. And if you like this content, be sure to hit that like button. Let's continue to cover all these big sports stories. If you've not subscribed, hit this little button right here. It won't cost you a dime, and it helps me out. And right over here is the most recent video that YouTube thinks you'll enjoy. We'll see you next time on Sports Talk Jay.